Welcome back. I'm going to bring back in Tanisha Wood, founder of The Broom List, the first and only matchmaking company dedicated to pairing up educated, marriage-minded Black professionals. Okay, I'm glad that we're back up and running. Tanisha, again, what is the story behind The Broom List?
Yeah, so The Broom List was really born out of my own necessity while dating, to meet other like-minded Black professionals. And also, my love of love. But one of the things you'll find is as you ascend as a Black professional in your career in corporate America, it becomes harder and harder to meet like-minded people at your level. So I wanted to really create a space where I was bringing Black professionals together to meet each other.
So how does the matchmaking process work, and how is it different from dating apps?
Yeah, so The Broom List, our ways of doing things are very different. Our process is a lot more intensive than a lot of other matchmaking companies. So, we're not an app. We don't utilize any algorithms or anything like that. It's all peer-to-peer, person-to-person. And so our process starts with a video interview that's about 2 hours where we talk about everything from, therapy to communication style to family background to relationship history, religion, politics, all of that. But everything that helps us to understand, who people are and thereby who they would be best matched with. Additionally, we do a home tour. So think MTV Crib style, show me around your house. Just, people's homes are super reflective of who they are. And, it's a really personal space. So it really gives a lot of great insight, into exactly who people are. And then the last thing we do is we do a reference check with a friend or family member to get an idea of how those closest to you see you. So it's an intense process, but it's definitely worth the match at the end.
Are there any standout success stories of couples that met through The Broom List?
Absolutely. So I actually just got a text yesterday from a couple that plans to move in together at the end of the year, and they actually just met in April. And so, I think that speaks to the fact that they were both very serious about meeting the right person and knew exactly what they wanted, which is a serious relationship. So, they came ready. What was funny about that couple, though, is, one lived in the city, one lived in the suburbs. And initially, when I brought the match to her, her sentiment was, oh, my God, he lives in the suburbs. That's such a drive. And, I really encourage my clients just to be open. Like, don't, block a potential partner for something, as trivial as distance, So if it's the right person, it's worth the drive.
That's so interesting you say that, because I'm thinking, you interview them, you go to their houses, as you mentioned, but what is it that you look for that you think is going to connect to people in particular?
Yeah, I would say it's really like shared values, right? And shared interests. So if you want the same things out of life, that's a really great foundation for a relationship and for building. And obviously their personalities have to match and things like that. And it's sometimes really hard to describe exactly how I go about it, because it's really when I'm talking to people and there's little things they mention or there's little mannerisms that they have that really give me insight into who they are at the core. And it's these little things that I sometimes hone in on when I'm looking for a match for them. But it all does start with having, shared values and shared interests and that foundation of really wanting partnership.
And as I mentioned in the intro, marriage has been on the decline among Americans, and that's particularly so in the Black community. Why do you think that is? And what are some of the keys, do you think, to creating a really good partnership?
Yeah, so like I've mentioned before, I think one of the barriers is that, we're just not in spaces where we're finding each other. So typically people meet at places like work or in their community. And as a Black professional, once you ascend, you're not around other Black professionals. Or, if you're now living in a neighborhood that equates with your income, again, it's going to be hard to be around other Black professionals. So I think it's harder for us to meet people. And the decline has been since the 1960s, it's been steadily declining. And so one of my big goals with The Broom List is to increase the Black marriage rate, because, that's not just about love. It's not just about romance. As we know, marriage equates to, higher income, higher education, higher home ownership rate, longer lifespans. So, marriage is actually a really important partnership in our lives.
Absolutely. All right, Tanisha Wood, founder of The Broom List. So great having you on, and such great advice for everyone who's looking for love right now.